Hi there, beloved Ascensionpreneurs. I'm taking a short nature retreat these few days, and I just felt really inspired to share something with you because it's something really important on our journey of ascension. And behind me, you can see the mountains, and I want to use them as an example of this metaphor for what it really means when we have these chapters and cycles in our life and how we go through them. And I want to talk about the importance of this balanced, harmonious living and actually getting in, absorbing all that we have experienced. Because as you know, ascension is a reality of experiencing it. It cannot be something that we think of. There's a lot of people who sit and think ascension, but we cannot think it. Life is a spectrum of feelings, of experiences, of everything, and our soul is gathering all of that. And in our life, we all have, like I said, these chapters, and it's like our life journey, which is a part of something bigger, which is our soul journey, consists of these circles. And these are not actually circles; they're circles within something grander, which is actually a spiral. So I'll be using the mountains to explain this as a metaphor for something that's really important, because a lot of us in this society as it is right now, we're always rushing towards something, and we all talk about these goals and achievements and what we want to do, and personal realizations and intentions. And the thing is that a lot of times when we get to a certain realization, which is a part of one circle, before moving on to the next circle, the next ring and the loop of our next experience, we don't really take the time to absorb everything in and to really reflect and to really, let our soul absorb all of it completely. And a lot of it is because of these distractions that we placed upon ourselves, and these false expectations that a lot of times we think they're our own, but many times they're not. Many times we have like this goal, like, I wish to achieve this, I want to expand into that. But the moment we will see it's not a natural expansion, it's not really coming from the freedom of our being, of our soul, will be when we'll be feeling that stress related to it, and our tummy will oftentimes feel like there's knots inside of it. And we'll be feeling these contractions. When there's normal contractions, when the soul is going through challenges and then seeking different solutions and, experimenting with different choices, which is how it's growing and expanding. But there's another thing to feel this external sense of something really, coming towards you. And when you're actually responding to your reality in a way that you allow it to govern you from the outside instead of the inside. And that is why it's so important that on our soul journey, when we travel and we come to each peak of the mountain, this is, the mountain archetype I'll be using right now to explain this. When you look at it, when you look at the traveler, when you go to the mountains, I know, because I myself, I go to the mountains and I know how it feels physically. Sometimes there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of challenges, and there's a winding road, and you go sometimes in a spiral, sometimes you go direct and you climb. But whatever kind of way, when you reach the top, nobody just looks at the view like this and then moves, away. There's a few people who do, but these people are all about accomplishments, so they don't even observe nature and reality as experiential and the feeling side of life. But those of us who do, you will never see a person coming to the peak of the mountain and then just, okay, what's my next peak of experience, you see? But I want to talk about why that is so crucial. Why it's not this sense of constantly needing to move from one stage to the next. Let me take this example. Like I said, our life is built from these tiny little chapters. And we know when one chapter is finished, because we'll be usually receiving messages of death, and resurrection and rebirth, and we'll be always flowing in these cycles. But one thing is to know that and to naturally go through these rhythms, and another thing is when people are clinging on, they're clinging on to something old. But when we finally reach a peak of the experience of a certain circle, that's what it's called, like when the experience will have its peak, it won't necessarily, how we have a feeling that then it goes down and then it goes up again. But on that peak, we were meant to hold that energy. We're meant to absorb that. So the peak should actually be like this. You know, when you're walking on this side of the mountain, when you're walking on them like this, not always just up and down, up and down, up and down. It's not always just a vertical journey. It's also vertical and horizontal. So when you put so much effort into something, and for example, last video I talked about the art of co-creation, and this is kind of like a continuation of that actually, because when we create something, and a lot of times when we do, people don't really take into time to absorb and to feel and give consciousness to that creation. Just today, I was reading the book from Dolores Cannon, and then there was this example of how everything has consciousness, even the things we create physically, artificially, that are not naturally source created, organical, the creation of all living existence, of the great universal mind and heart of one divine intelligence. But even the things we build as humans, we put love into it, and the moment you put love into it, you put a part of yourself and a part of all that is, because you're one with it. You put a part of consciousness that is universal into it. It's not biologically alive as you are, but it's the same sort of consciousness, and we don't always appreciate it. So when I was reading that paragraph, and there was a lot about these robots, mechanical beings, and the beings who were creating them, they were not really, well, they were aware, but they weren't paying any emotional attention to the fact that they also have feelings, and that there's some sort of consciousness there, because they were putting it together this way. So they didn't really care. They were just using them to do their work, so they can control something. But the whole experience, what that was shown, that reality was explained, is because a lot of times we don't appreciate everything as living, as existing, as conscious. So when we walk our journey, and let's say we complete a certain stage, and we will know there will be the peak of experience, because the emotions, the feeling side of life will be most intense. The moment the intensity is gone, it doesn't mean that, now something's wrong with you. It means, okay, I guess I already had the peak of my experience. So this is when I'm going to take some time to ponder and reflect. Kind of like when you have the tarot. Tarot is not just a divination and oracle tool. A lot of people perceive it like that and get answers in their life, but the tarot is actually a complex description of our spiritual journey, with these chapters and cycles and a spiral, and with each insight into how we should really be feeling into each chapter. A lot of times we want to receive an answer, what this is about, and then, okay, now what? Then you want to move on to the next thing. When you're really spiritually aware and conscious, and you become a sovereign being, and you work with the flow of divine intelligence, you work on that, you try to really embody that in your own living. So if I go and I climb to the top of the mountain, sometimes I gotta admit it's so cold, you're all sweaty and the wind is intense, especially in the winter, and you can't stay on the top for very long. But when you do, those moments you do have to be precious, and you're the one that makes them precious, and you want to take all in. The one good example for this is, again, it comes from Dolores' books. This consciousness that was in this being, before it disassembled, that's how it, described the process. Before it dissolved, it just released its energy spark outside of that body vehicle. It just took some time to memorize everything in that room, because it took that back into the oneness of all, into their group soul and the oversoul and so on. So when you're standing there or sitting or whatever it is on that top of the mountain, it's not so much about how long you do that. As longer as I do it, it's going to be more intense, but it's how you deepen your experience of it. So you can have two people standing on top of the mountain, and I'm a great example of this, because when I'm up there, I feel everything, and I meet people who are totally unaware of the beauty, of the divinity of everything. They're just smoking there and just looking around. They're not even paying attention. So you see, we can be at the top at the same amount of time, but our experience will be, one will be deep and rich and really absorbed, and one will be totally flat. So you're just touching base. You're not going deep enough. So when we're going through these stages and cycles in our journey, it's very important that this is how we embody. This is how we embody soul. We take all in. For example, I was creating my art block last week, and I finally did something, and I did the first part of it. Not everything was finished, and I knew it's just the beginning. But I had this, okay, now what? And the answer came, now rest. Now you got to take the retreat before, jumping on and heading onto a new start. You got to take some time to reflect and what is now, and you got to really feel, because a lot of times we create things, but we're so eager and we're so devoted into the process mentally that we forget the feeling aspect of it. That's why sometimes we need to step away from it to enter the feeling side into it. And this is how our creations will really be divine. So if you haven't seen the first video on this topic, watch the previous one before this one, and then add this, what I'm adding right now, to that, because it's really important. So when I live my life, I explained this a lot of times to you before, I'm very hyper. This means I have a lot of power in me, and I gotta consciously know how to work with that power, to utilize it for the greater good, to know where energy input is best, most optimal, most advanced in awareness. And this takes time, and this takes contemplation. That's why we all have to be a hermit from time to time. So it's not all about constant doing, or just constant being and meditating. Our life in Ascension reality is all about being in a harmonious aspect of always living in oneness of it all. Because a lot of times we create this duality. We either work a lot or we retreat a lot. People go to vacations only once a year, and they want to get it all out of their system then, at that time. When they come back, they work, and they're just focused on that. But ascended reality is a reality with a broader view. So in that view, you actually are the observer, the one who experiences and the one who creates, and you feel everything as one. So it takes wisdom for that. And if I would be just focused on just creating, a lot of times I wouldn't even be aware, who am I creating this for? Is it really coming from my passionate, co-creative, divine ability to form things into matter, to bring things into reality? Or am I doing it because of this external trigger, or somebody asked me to do it, or somebody said, oh, it'd be really good if you did that, and I did it. And it would really be something unconscious. I just played along. That's why these moments when we sit, and we hold the energy up there, are just really going to raise our consciousness. And this is what we're about here in the path of Ascension. It's raising consciousness. It's working in unison with our heart and the divine intellect. This has nothing to do with the lower mind aspect. This is divine intellect. We have the brain and the heart. That's why we have both organs. But the consciousness is about neither of those organs. It's just partially how part of our energy experiences through those senses. But when we create something, when we come to a certain completion of the circle will only be complete, and the next level within the spiral, within creating a new circle, a new round one, will be beginning to be formed once we really take it all in, once we feel what we have created, because we need to put consciousness in it through feeling. So if I just create a blog, just physically, work something online, put some photos there, put some, personal services there, whatever I put that I'm guided to do, and then I don't feel into it, feel what it is for me, what it brings to me, what this new life chapter is about, how do I feel it, how do I imagine it? The divine co-creation process really doesn't take place on a higher level of experience and awareness. So this is something I wanted to share with you today, and how important this is, because a lot of us are just rushing from one journey, chapter of it into the next one. And this is done so rapidly in our society that it's just a shame, because we're losing the most primal aspect of it all that binds everything together, which is awareness, which is love, putting love into everything that we do. That's why, this is an important part, and we can neglect that part. So once you come to the peak of the mountain, and as you know, there's many tops, there's never just one. And before you're already thinking about what's the next journey, what's my next step? Because a lot of people still are always in the mind. They're always, what's next? What do I need to do next? Just let it all go, let it come naturally, because once you will be the hermit, once you will allow yourself to be in the feeling and the absorbing of it all, and your soul awareness will grow and expand through that, that's when all the knowing through love, because you put love in that journey, in that part of the journey, all will be known, all will be felt. And this will be done and created on a higher level of our awareness, and we'll be evolving into these beings that are not just instrumental and so mechanical like these robots, but we will actually be working on a higher level of consciousness. So as I was taking this weekend to really enjoy this is only, and only this way, the highest guidance and for the greater good can come for the next step. But we will feel it, you know. So each step, each cycle, each, you know, each, we cannot skip them. It's just, they are how they are. And it's really important to, as conscious co-creator beings in the new higher dimensional reality we're building, and you know my videos are based upon that. They're not about blah blah blah. They're about how to live our ascension. They're about how to really experience the peak experience and the profound joy in every cycle and every part of the journey. And yeah, we're not to neglect that. It's really important, and we got to use it in our own life to make it count. So until next time, until next video, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you soon. I love you so much. Next week, I'm probably gonna start doing this block thing and on a deeper level now, with the art. This is something that's really in my heart now. But yeah, I'll be sharing as much videos as I can, as I'm guided to, as always. You know, it's all spirit anyway. So take care.